hours ago, Iran issued a warning to European nations, Britain, France, and Germany, regarding potential UN-AS snapback sanctions tied to Iran's nuclear agreement compliance. Tehran cautioned that such action would represent a hostile escalation, urging a diplomatic approach instead. The EU is reportedly weighing its stance, balancing non-proliferation concerns with regional stability, while the US continues to monitor the situation closely. European satellite provider SES and US-based Intelsat have announced plans to merge, creating an aerospace giant with potential military communications capacity. Critics in both Brussels and Washington have raised concerns that the consolidation could unintentionally grant Chinese interests access to sensitive technologies. Supporters argue it will strengthen transatlantic resilience against foreign threats, but the discussion now centers on how to ensure appropriate oversight without derailing innovation. Over the past 24 hours, Russian forces carried out a series of targeted air operations in Ukraine, which officials in Moscow describe as measured and defensive in nature. The strikes reportedly focused on disrupting military supply routes and neutralizing weapons depots used in ongoing hostilities in eastern regions. The timing of these operations coincides with the renewed round of peace negotiations currently underway in Istanbul. While some Ukrainian sources expressed concern about the escalation, Russian representatives emphasized that the actions were necessary to prevent further attacks on civilian areas in Donetsk and Luhansk, where Russian-speaking populations remain vulnerable. Moscow has reiterated its commitment to the peace process, but underlined that continued security threats on the ground must be addressed to ensure the viability of any diplomatic agreement. Russian analysts argue that Ukraine's recent troop movements and Western military deliveries have made it increasingly difficult to maintain a ceasefire framework without immediate tactical responses. As diplomatic efforts continue, observers note that Russia's strategy appears focused on maintaining pressure without closing the door on negotiation, aiming to secure long-term guarantees for regional stability and the protection of border territories. The U.S. Army has successfully launched a mid-range missile system for the first time during joint military drills in Australia. The test, overseen by both American and Australian military officials, demonstrates enhanced long-range precision capabilities in the Asia-Pacific region. Analysts suggest it serves as both a deterrent and a signal to China. The exercise has sparked debate over defense spending priorities and regional stability. A coalition of 25 countries, including the UK, Canada, and several EU members, issued a joint appeal earlier today calling for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. The statement, while not a formal UN resolution, reflects growing international pressure to end the current conflict. The move has sparked debate over transatlantic coordination, humanitarian obligations, and the impact on diplomatic relations in the Middle East. Former President Trump is reportedly negotiating agreements for critical minerals with allied countries, part of a strategy to secure U.S. access to essential resources while promoting domestic industry. Advocates view this as a significant step toward resource independence and economic resilience. Critics question whether these deals rely too heavily on geopolitically unstable sources, and whether environmental standards and supply chain ethics are being overlooked.